Aries had lived in the same house for years, long enough to know every single sound it made at night. He knew the way the floor creaked near the top of the stairs, the way the air somehow felt heavier after midnight, and the way shadows sometimes lingered just a little longer than they should. That's why he noticed immediately when something felt wrong, even before he actually saw it. The hallway looked the same, the lights were dim as always, but at the very end where there had only ever been a blank wall, there was now a door, a narrow wooden door, old and worn, standing quietly as if it had always belonged there. He just stood there, staring at it for a long, long time, trying to convince himself it was just his imagination, that pure exhaustion was finally playing tricks on his mind. But imagination doesn't cast shadows, and this door had one long dark, and stretching unnaturally across the floor, reaching toward him. As he cautiously stepped closer, the air grew colder, and his heartbeat slowed in a way that felt deeply unnatural, like the house itself was holding its breath. He raised a hesitant hand and touched the doorknob. He instantly pulled back as a sharp, numbing chill ran through his fingers. It wasn't painful, just deeply wrong. The sudden buzz made his grip loosen, his breath hitching as the screen lit up the dim hallway with its pale, electronic glow. The message was from an unknown number. The text was short and incredibly unsettling. "You are not supposed to be here yet." Aries stumbled back, his pulse now racing, and the hallway light flickered once before steadying again. The door didn't move, it didn't need to. Its mere presence felt like a quiet, screaming warning. He retreated to his room and didn't sleep, not really. As if something on the other side of that impossible door was aware of him in a way that went far beyond normal sight. The next morning, the door was still there. He avoided it all day, going out of his way to not even glance down the hall, but the feeling never left him. The feeling of being observed, of something being out of place in the one place he was supposed to feel safe. As the hours dragged on, he began to notice other small, unsettling changes. His reflection in the bathroom mirror seemed to lag just a fraction of a second behind his movements. When he spoke, his own voice sounded distant to his ears, like it was coming from the end of a long tunnel. The house, a place he knew for its familiar symphony of creaks and groans, was now quieter than it had ever been before, a dead, listening quiet. That night, unable to fight the strange magnetic pull any longer, he found himself standing in the hallway again, staring at the door. As if on cue, his phone vibrated once more, another message from the same unknown number. This one read, "Time is moving." Before he could even process the words, before he could react, the door slowly creaked open. Inside wasn't darkness, but a room that looked disturbingly familiar. It was his room, the same bed, the same desk, the same window looking out onto the same street, but everything felt drained of warmth, of life. It was like a memory that had been left out in the cold for far too long. And standing inside was a boy who looked exactly like Aries, only older. His eyes were tired, his expression hollow, yet strangely calm, as if fear was something he had already lived through and survived. "You weren't meant to see this yet," the boy said quietly, his voice steady but heavy with a weariness that seemed ancient. The air in his lungs felt frozen. His older version stepped aside slightly, revealing something that made his blood run cold. On the walls of the room were dozens of faint outlined shapes that looked like doors, barely visible, each one closed, each one waiting. "This house doesn't keep people," the older boy continued, his voice a low monotone. "It keeps what they were supposed to become. And when time runs out, someone has to take their place." Aries's phone vibrated one last time in his trembling hand. He looked down at the screen. Exchange confirmed. The hallway lights went out, plunging him into absolute darkness. The next morning, the house felt normal again. The birds were chirping outside. The familiar smell of coffee drifted up from the kitchen. The hallway ended in a blank wall, just like it always had. Aries walked out of his room calmly. He smiled back, a calm, easy smile. He never looked down the hallway anymore. He didn't need to. And somewhere, behind a door that no longer existed, a younger version of Aries sat alone in a cold, quiet room, staring at a blank wall, just waiting for a door to appear.